The Mishap. Captain Ryan Carter groaned as he opened his eyes. His head throbbed, and his vision was blurry. Bright white lights above him buzzed faintly, and the air smelled sterile, like a hospital. He blinked a few times, trying to make sense of where he was. The last thing he remembered was his ship, the Horizon, being hit by an unexpected energy blast while exploring the outer edge of a nebula. "Where am I?" Ryan muttered, his voice rough. As his senses sharpened, he realized he was inside a cylindrical pod. Its walls were smooth and translucent, glowing with a faint blue hue. Symbols and alien characters blinked on a small screen near his feet. He tried to sit up, but his muscles felt heavy, as if he hadn't moved in days. Suddenly, the pod hummed loudly, and the blue glow flickered erratically. A sharp metallic clang echoed through the room, followed by a soft hiss. Ryan's pod door slid open with a hiss of pressurized air. He stumbled out, nearly falling to the cold, polished floor. That's when he saw her. The pod next to his had also malfunctioned. From it emerged a tall, slender alien girl with pale lavender skin and shimmering silver hair that flowed like liquid light. Her wide golden eyes scanned the room cautiously. She wore a strange, flowing garment that looked both ceremonial and functional, with intricate patterns glowing faintly along the edges. Ryan froze, his instincts screaming danger. He reached for his sidearm, but it wasn't there. The alien girl noticed his movement and raised her hand. A small, glowing device in her palm buzzed, and Ryan felt an invisible force push him backward. "Stay back," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. "I don't want trouble," Ryan replied, raising his hand slowly. His heart raced, but he kept his tone steady. "Where are we? What happened?" The girl's golden eyes narrowed. "You don't know." Ryan shook his head. "I remember my ship being hit. Next thing I know, I wake up here." The alien girl frowned, her gaze flickering to his pod, then back to him. "Your kind shouldn't be here. This is a restricted zone." "I didn't exactly book a vacation," Ryan shot back. "Look, I don't know who you are or what this place is, but something's clearly wrong. That pod of yours looks as broken as mine." As if on cue, a loud alarm blared through the room. Red lights flashed, and the walls vibrated slightly. The alien girl's expression shifted from suspicion to alarm. She glanced at a panel on the wall, where alien text scrolled rapidly. "What's going on?" Ryan asked. "An intruder alert," she said, her voice tight. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You mean me?" The girl shook her head. "No, this is something else." The system detected unauthorized movement in the ship. Ryan's gut twisted. "Great. First, I'm stuck in a malfunctioning pod, and now we've got company. Any chance you know how to handle this?" The alien girl hesitated before nodding. "Follow me. But if you try anything..." She raised the glowing device again, her golden eyes locking onto his. "I get it," Ryan interrupted. "Let's move." She led him out of the med bay and into a dimly lit corridor. The walls were sleek and metallic, lined with glowing strips of light that flickered ominously. Ryan's mind raced as he tried to piece together what was happening. He didn't trust this alien girl, but he had no choice. She seemed just as confused and wary as he was, and for now, they needed each other to survive. "What's your name?" Ryan asked as they moved cautiously down the corridor. The girl glanced at him, but didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "Karina." "Ryan," he replied. "Captain Ryan Carter of the United Earth Fleet." Karina gave a faint nod, but didn't respond further. As they turned a corner, they heard the sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. Karina grabbed Ryan's arm and pulled him into a small alcove. She pressed a button on her wrist device, and a shimmering field appeared in front of them, masking their presence. Through the shimmering field, Ryan saw a group of armed figures moving swiftly down the corridor. They wore dark armor, and their faces were hidden behind helmets. Their movements were precise, military-like. "Who are they?" Ryan whispered. Karina's expression hardened. "Mercenaries. They must have boarded the ship while we were unconscious." "Mercenaries? Why would they come here?" Ryan asked. Karina hesitated. "I don't know, but they're not here for a friendly visit." As the mercenaries passed, Ryan noticed one of them holding a device that looked suspiciously like a human scanner. His stomach sank. "They're looking for me," he realized. Karina glanced at him sharply. "Why?" "I wish I knew," Ryan said grimly. The mercenaries disappeared around a corner, and Karina deactivated the field. She looked at Ryan, her expression serious. "We need to find out what's going on," she said. Ryan nodded. "Agreed. But first, we need to stay alive." Karina smirked faintly. "For a human, you're not as slow as I thought." Ryan rolled his eyes. "And for an alien, you're not as scary as I thought." Despite the tension, a faint sense of mutual respect began to form. Neither of them knew what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. They would have to work together to survive this mysterious and deadly situation. The escape. The sound of heavy boots echoed down the corridor, growing louder with every second. Karina pressed her back against the cold wall, her golden eyes darting to Ryan. He stood beside her, unarmed but tense, his fists clenched like he was ready to fight an entire squad of mercenaries barehanded. "We can't just stand here," Ryan whispered. Karina shot him a sharp look. "Do you have a better idea, human? Because I don't see any weapons on you." Before Ryan could reply, the lights overhead flickered, and a loud hum resonated through the ship. The temperature dropped slightly, and the walls seemed to ripple with energy. Karina stiffened, her fingers brushing the controls on her wrist device. "What was that?" Ryan asked, his voice low. "Energy fluctuation," Karina replied. "The ship's core is unstable. We don't have much time." Ryan frowned. "Unstable? How bad are we talking?" "Bad enough that if we don't get to the control room, this entire vessel will collapse into itself," she said, glancing down the corridor. Ryan let out a frustrated breath. "Great. And on top of that, we've got mercenaries hunting us. Any chance you know the layout of this ship?" Karina hesitated before nodding. "Yes, but it's not designed for humans. There will be sections you can't access without my help." Ryan gestured toward the approaching footsteps. "Well, we'd better move before we don't need to worry about the ship blowing up, because they'll do it for us." Karina didn't argue. She led him down a side corridor, her steps silent and deliberate. Ryan followed closely, his eyes scanning for anything he could use as a weapon. The walls were lined with strange, pulsating conduits that hummed softly. Occasionally, small panels emitted bursts of light, illuminating their path in flickering patterns. They reached a junction where the corridors split into 3 directions. Karina stopped, her wrist device projecting a holographic map of the ship. She studied it for a moment, her expression tightening. "This way," she said, pointing to the left. Ryan followed her without question, though his instincts told him to stay alert. Something about the ship felt wrong. It wasn't just the flickering lights or the hum of unstable energy. It was the silence, broken only by their footsteps and the occasional distant clang. They entered a large chamber filled with rows of towering metal crates. The air was cooler here, and the smell of something metallic lingered. "Cargo bay," Ryan guessed. Karina nodded. "We can hide here for a moment and—" She didn't finish. The sound of a metallic clang echoed nearby, followed by muffled voices. Ryan grabbed her arm and pulled her behind one of the crates. "Quiet," he whispered. The voices grew louder. Ryan peered around the edge of the crate and saw 2 mercenaries entering the cargo bay. Their armor glinted under the dim lights, and each held a strange weapon that pulsed with an ominous red glow. "They're sweeping the area," Karina murmured, her voice barely audible. Ryan glanced at her. "Can you take them out?" Karina gave him a withering look. "I'm a diplomat's daughter, not a soldier." Ryan sighed. "Fantastic. Okay, stay here. Before she could protest, Ryan crept along the side of the crate, keeping low. He spotted a loose metal pipe near a stack of smaller containers and grabbed it. The weight felt solid in his hands. Not ideal, but better than nothing. The first mercenary passed by him, scanning the area with a handheld device. Ryan waited until the second one turned his back, then sprang into action. With a swift, silent movement, Ryan swung the pipe at the first mercenary's helmet. The impact sent the armored figure crashing to the ground. The second mercenary spun around, raising his weapon, but Ryan was already moving. He tackled the man, using the pipe to knock the weapon out of his hands. Karina watched from behind the crate, her golden eyes wide. She hadn't expected the human to act so quickly, or so effectively. Ryan wrestled the second mercenary to the ground, delivering a final blow to his helmet that left him unconscious. Breathing heavily, he stood and turned to Karina. "See, easy," he said, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. Karina raised an eyebrow. Impressive, for a human. Ryan smirked but didn't reply. Instead, he picked up one of the mercenary's weapons and handed it to her. "Here, you might not be a soldier, but I have a feeling you'll need this." She took the weapon reluctantly, studying it. "Do you even know how these work?" "Point and shoot," Ryan guessed. Karina sighed but didn't argue. "We need to keep moving. The control room is still far, and if the core destabilizes completely, we won't survive." Ryan nodded. "Lead the way. And next time, let's try to avoid getting caught in the first place." Karina smirked faintly. "I'll consider it." The uneasy alliance between them grew stronger as they slipped out of the cargo bay, leaving the unconscious mercenaries behind. The stakes were rising, and they both knew that survival depended on trusting each other, no matter how unlikely their partnership seemed. Unlikely allies. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the distant hum of the unstable ship. Ryan and Karina crouched in the shadows of a narrow maintenance shaft, their breathing shallow as they waited for the patrol to pass. "Do you always dive headfirst into danger, or is today special?" Karina whispered, her golden eyes glaring at Ryan. Ryan shot her a lopsided grin. "Only when I'm stuck on an alien ship with someone who doesn't seem to know how to use a gun." Karina's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't reply. She clutched the stolen weapon tightly, her hands trembling ever so slightly. Ryan noticed but said nothing. He could tell she wasn't used to situations like this. The sound of boots on metal faded, and Karina exhaled softly. "They're gone." "For now," Ryan said, leaning back against the wall of the shaft. "But we can't keep hiding forever. What's the plan?" Karina hesitated, her gaze flickering to the holographic map projected from her wrist device. "The control room is 3 decks above us. If we can get there, I might be able to stabilize the ship's core and access the logs to figure out why they're after us." "Might," Ryan echoed. "That doesn't sound very reassuring." Karina glared at him. "Do you have a better idea?" Ryan held up his hands. "Nope. Just checking." Karina sighed and deactivated the projection. "Look, I don't trust you, human. I don't know why you were in that pod or what your people want with me. But right now, we don't have a choice. If we don't work together, we both die." Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "Fair enough. But for the record, I don't trust you either. So let's just agree to keep each other alive until we figure this out." Karina gave a curt nod. "Agreed." As they climbed out of the maintenance shaft and into another corridor, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His muscles felt stronger, his reflexes sharper. It was subtle, but he noticed it when he moved. "Hey," he said, glancing at Karina. "Did that pod do something to me?" Karina frowned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Ryan said. "I just feel different. Faster, maybe. Stronger." Karina's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly masked her surprise. "It's possible," she admitted. The healing pods were designed to repair and enhance biological systems, but the process wasn't meant to merge two beings from different species. Whatever happened to us was a malfunction. Ryan stopped walking. Wait, are you saying we're connected somehow? Karina hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. The pods might have created a biological link between us. I've been feeling strange too. Like I can sense things I couldn't before. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. Great, so now we're lab experiments on top of everything else. Before Karina could respond, a loud crash echoed from the corridor ahead. Both of them froze, their eyes locking. Mercenaries, Ryan whispered. Karina shook her head. No, that sounded like. She trailed off, her expression darkening. What? Ryan pressed. She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned for him to follow her, her movements quick and silent. They crept down the corridor, their weapons raised. The air grew colder, and the flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls. When they reached the source of the noise, they found a large storage room. The door was smashed open, and the crates inside were scattered and broken. Strange, claw-like marks gouged the walls and floor. What the hell did this? Ryan asked, stepping cautiously into the room. Karina's face paled. This ship was transporting more than just passengers, she said quietly. Ryan turned to her, his brow furrowing. What are you talking about? Karina swallowed hard. My people have been experimenting with bioengineered creatures for defense purposes. One of them must have escaped during the core malfunction. Ryan stared at her. You're telling me there's a giant alien monster loose on this ship? Karina nodded grimly. And it's highly aggressive. If the mercenaries encounter it, they won't survive. Good, Ryan said. One less problem for us to deal with. Karina shook her head. You don't understand. If the creature damages the core, it'll accelerate the ship's destruction. We have to stop it. Ryan groaned. Of course we do. Because this wasn't complicated enough already. Karina shot him a look. You can complain later. Right now, we need to find the creature and contain it. Ryan sighed and adjusted his grip on the alien weapon. Lead the way, princess. Karina didn't bother correcting him this time. Together, they left the storage room, their uneasy alliance solidifying with every step. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would have to face them together, whether they liked it or not. The hidden truth. The control room was eerily silent, except for the faint hum of the unstable core resonating through the walls. Ryan and Karina stood at the entrance, their weapons raised and breaths steady. The doors had been partially sealed, forcing Ryan to wedge them open with a metal rod he'd scavenged earlier. Karina's golden eyes darted over the room, scanning for signs of danger. Consoles flickered erratically, and alien symbols scrolled across cracked screens. The faint smell of burnt circuits lingered in the air. Clear, she whispered, stepping inside cautiously. Ryan followed, his instincts on high alert. I got a bad feeling about this. You've had a bad feeling since we woke up, Karina replied, her tone clipped. Ryan smirked despite himself. Guess I'm consistent. Karina ignored him and moved to the central console, her wrist device glowing as it synced with the ship's systems. She tapped a few commands, and a holographic display lit up above the console, showing a schematic of the ship. Ryan leaned in, his eyes narrowing. That's the core, Karina said, pointing to a pulsating red dot near the center of the ship. It's destabilizing faster than I thought. We have less than an hour before it collapses entirely. Fantastic, Ryan muttered. So how do we stop it? Karina hesitated, her gaze shifting to another section of the schematic. First, we need to understand what's causing this. The core doesn't just destabilize on its own. Ryan nodded. You think the mercenaries did this? Maybe, Karina said, but something doesn't add up. They wouldn't sabotage the core if they wanted to capture us alive. It would kill them too. Ryan frowned. So who else could be behind it? Karina didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled up the ship's logs, her fingers moving quickly over the holographic interface. As the data loaded, her expression darkened. "What is it?" Ryan asked, stepping closer. Karina pointed to a section of the log, where lines of alien text scrolled rapidly. "These are encrypted messages sent from this ship before the core malfunction. They're not from my crew. Someone on board was communicating with an outside party." "Spies," Ryan guessed. "Worse," Karina said grimly. She highlighted a portion of the text and translated it for him. "It's a message about us. Whoever sent this wanted both of us eliminated." Quietly, Ryan's stomach tightened. "Eliminated? Why?" Karina turned to him, her golden eyes piercing. "Because we're inconvenient. You're a human explorer in restricted space, and I'm the daughter of a high-ranking diplomat. Our deaths could ignite tensions between our species, possibly even a war." Ryan let out a low whistle. "So this isn't just a random mercenary raid. Someone wants to spark a conflict." Karina nodded. "And they're willing to destroy this ship to do it." Before Ryan could respond, the ship shuddered violently, throwing them off balance. Sparks flew from the damaged consoles, and the lights flickered dangerously. "What now?" Ryan growled, steadying himself against the console. Karina glanced at the schematic, her expression tightening. "The bioengineered creature, it's near the core. If it damages the containment unit, we're done." Ryan groaned. "Let me guess. We're going to have to stop it." Karina smirked faintly, despite the tension. "You're catching on, human." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Great. But before we play monster hunters, we need to deal with those encrypted messages. Can you trace them back to whoever sent them?" Karina hesitated. "Maybe, but it'll take time we don't have." Ryan's jaw tightened. "We can't leave this unanswered. If there's someone pulling the strings, they'll keep trying even if we survive this." Karina studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Fine. I'll set up an automated trace, but once it's running, we head to the core." "Agreed." "Agreed," Ryan said. Karina's fingers flew over the console as she initiated the trace. Ryan kept watch, his weapon ready. The ship groaned again, a haunting sound that made his skin crawl. "This place is falling apart," he muttered. Karina didn't look up. "Then we'd better move quickly." As the trace began its work, Karina transferred the data to her wrist device. She turned to Ryan, her expression firm. "The trace will take time to complete. We'll have the results once we stabilize the core, or die trying." "Reassuring," Ryan said dryly. Karina smirked faintly, then motioned for him to follow her. Together, they left the control room, their pace quickening as the ship continued to destabilize around them. For the first time, Ryan felt a flicker of trust in Karina. She was resourceful, determined, and more capable than she let on. But he also knew they were walking into a fight neither of them was prepared for. As they approached the access hatch leading to the core, Ryan tightened his grip on his weapon. "So, any advice for dealing with this creature of yours?" Karina glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Don't let it kill you." Ryan chuckled despite himself. "Solid advice." The hatch hissed open, revealing a dark, pulsating chamber filled with glowing conduits and the ominous hum of the unstable core. Somewhere in the shadows, the creature waited, its presence heavy in the air. Ryan took a deep breath and stepped inside, Karina close behind. For now, they were allies. And if they were going to survive, that alliance would have to hold. The ambush. The chamber was deathly quiet, save for the pulsing hum of the unstable core that seemed to vibrate through Ryan's chest. The air was thick with an unnatural heat, and the faint glow of the containment conduits cast eerie, shifting shadows across the room. Ryan tightened his grip on the stolen weapon, his eyes darting between the looming machinery and the flickering lights above. "I don't see it," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Karina, standing a few steps ahead, didn't respond. Her golden eyes scanned the room with a focus that Ryan hadn't seen before. She moved with surprising precision, her earlier hesitation replaced with a quiet determination. "It's here," she said softly, her voice steady. "It's watching us." Ryan's stomach tightened. "That's comforting." Karina ignored his sarcasm and motioned for him to stay close. Together, they crept further into the chamber, the oppressive heat growing with every step. The core itself was a massive, pulsating sphere of energy at the center of the room, surrounded by intricate containment machinery that flickered ominously. As they approached a cluster of tall, cylindrical conduits, a low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber. Ryan froze, his heart pounding. "There," Karina said, pointing to the shadows near the far wall. Ryan followed her gaze and saw a flicker of movement, a shape too large to be human, its silhouette distorted by the glow of the core. The creature was crouched low, its limbs unnaturally long and sinewy. Its skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed faintly, locking onto them like twin beacons of malice. "Any bright ideas?" Ryan asked, his voice tense. Karina didn't answer. Instead, she raised her weapon and fired a quick burst of energy toward the creature. The shot missed, but it was enough to provoke a reaction. With an ear-piercing screech, the creature lunged toward them, its movements unnervingly fast. Ryan barely had time to react before it was upon them. He dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its razor-sharp claws, and fired a shot at its flank. The energy bolt struck the creature, but it barely flinched. Instead, it turned its attention to Ryan, its glowing eyes narrowing as it snarled. "Bad idea," Ryan shouted, scrambling to his feet. Karina fired again, this time aiming for the creature's legs. The shot hit its mark, and the creature stumbled, giving them a brief moment to regroup. "It's regenerating," Karina said, her voice laced with urgency. "We can't kill it with these weapons." "Then what's the plan?" Ryan demanded, ducking behind a conduit as the creature swiped at him. Karina's eyes flicked to the core. "The containment field. If we can lure it close enough, we might be able to trap it using the energy field." Ryan glanced at the unstable core, his jaw tightening. "That's a big might. Do you have a better idea?" Karina snapped. Ryan sighed. "Fine. How do we activate it?" Karina motioned to a nearby console. "I'll handle it. You keep it distracted." "Of course," Ryan muttered. "Leave the suicidal part to me." Karina didn't respond. She sprinted toward the console, her movements quick and precise. The creature roared, its attention splitting between Ryan and Karina. "Hey, ugly!" Ryan shouted, firing another shot to draw its focus. "Over here." The creature turned toward him with a snarl, its claws scraping against the metal floor as it charged. Ryan dodged and rolled, firing sporadically to keep it at bay. Every movement felt like a gamble, and the oppressive heat of the chamber was making it harder to focus. Karina reached the console and began inputting commands, her fingers flying over the interface. "I need 30 seconds," she shouted. "Take your time," Ryan called back, narrowly avoiding another swipe from the creature. The seconds felt like hours as the creature's attacks grew more ferocious. Ryan's legs burned from the constant movement, and his arms ached from the recoil of the stolen weapon. Just when he thought he couldn't hold out any longer, Karina shouted, "Now, get clear." Ryan didn't hesitate. He dove behind a conduit as a burst of energy erupted from the core, forming a shimmering containment field around the creature. The beast howled in rage, thrashing against the field as it struggled to break free. Karina ran to Ryan's side, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. "It won't hold forever," she said, her voice tight. Ryan nodded, his gaze fixed on the creature. "Then let's finish what we came here to do." Together, they turned their attention to the core. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, they had a chance. An uneasy alliance had formed between them, one built on necessity, but growing stronger with every challenge they faced. The final stand. The escape shuttle's cockpit was a chaotic mess of flickering lights, malfunctioning displays, and warning alarms. Ryan slammed his fist against the console, trying to force the navigation systems back online. The ship's artificial gravity was glitching, causing them to momentarily float before slamming back onto the deck. "This thing is barely holding together," Ryan shouted, gripping the edge of the console as the shuttle lurched violently. Karina, seated at the co-pilot station, was furiously typing commands into her wrist device, attempting to bypass the shuttle's locked communication systems. Her silver hair glimmered in the dim, pulsing light, but her expression was tense. "It's not just the shuttle," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "That fleet isn't here to rescue anyone. They're broadcasting a jamming signal to block all outgoing transmissions." Ryan glanced out the viewport at the approaching fleet. Sleek, ominous ships painted black against the backdrop of space. Their design was unmistakable. Mercenary vessels, heavily armed and moving with surgical precision. "Perfect," Ryan muttered. "They've thought of everything." Karina shot him a sharp look. "Not everything. If I can get through the jamming signal, we can warn the summit about the assassination plot." Ryan frowned. "How?" "They'll shoot us down the second we transmit anything." Karina hesitated, then pulled up a holographic projection of the fleet. "These ships are using a standard formation to protect their command vessel. If we can disable the lead ship's communications relay, it'll break their jamming signal long enough for me to send the message." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "And by disable, you mean?" Karina met his gaze. "We'll have to board it." Ryan laughed humorlessly. "Board it? With this shuttle? Are you insane?" Karina's eyes narrowed. "Do you have a better idea, Captain?" Ryan sighed, leaning back in his seat. "Not really. But remind me to never let you plan our next mission." The shuttle shuddered again as another alarm blared. Ryan took the controls and veered them sharply toward the fleet, pushing the small battered craft to its limits. "This is suicide," he muttered under his breath. Karina smirked faintly. "Not if we succeed." As they closed the distance to the fleet, Ryan activated the shuttle's remaining thrusters, weaving through a barrage of laser fire from the mercenary ships. The small size of the shuttle worked to their advantage, allowing them to slip through the gaps in the enemy's defenses. "Hold on," Ryan shouted, spinning the shuttle in a sharp barrel roll to avoid a direct hit. Karina gripped the console tightly, her focus unwavering. "Keep us steady. I'm locking onto the lead ship's docking port." Ryan gritted his teeth. No promises. The shuttle jolted violently as a glancing shot struck its hull, but Karina's wrist device beeped, signaling a successful lock. "We're in range," she said. Ryan fired the shuttle's docking clamps, slamming them into the side of the lead mercenary ship. The connection was rough, but it held. "Docking complete," Ryan said, breathing heavily. He grabbed a weapon from the storage compartment and turned to Karina, ready for a little braking and entering. Karina stood, her golden eyes blazing with determination. "I was born ready." They moved quickly through the airlock, cutting through the docking port with a plasma torch. The moment the hatch opened, they were met with the unmistakable sounds of shouting and approaching footsteps. "Here we go," Ryan muttered, raising his weapon. The first wave of mercenaries stormed into the corridor, their weapons firing in rapid bursts. Ryan and Karina fought side by side, their movements synchronized in a way that surprised them both. Ryan's quick reflexes and Karina's strategic precision kept them one step ahead of their attackers. As the last mercenary fell, Ryan leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You're getting pretty good at this," Karina smirked. "Don't get used to it." They pressed deeper into the ship, navigating through narrow hallways and darkened chambers. The air was tense, every corner a potential ambush. Finally, they reached the communications hub, a towering room filled with glowing consoles and a central relay station. Karina immediately got to work, connecting her wrist device to the relay. "Cover me," she said without looking up. Ryan nodded, taking position at the entrance. It didn't take long for reinforcements to arrive. The mercenaries poured into the room, their weapons blazing. Ryan returned fire, using the consoles as cover. "Karina, whatever you're doing, do it faster," he shouted. "I'm almost there," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, sending a shockwave through the room. Ryan stumbled but quickly regained his footing. What was that? "The core of their secondary ship just went critical," Karina said. "They must have been hit by debris from our shuttle." Ryan swore under his breath. "We're running out of time." Karina's wrist device beeped, and she turned to Ryan. "The jamming signal is down. I'm transmitting the warning now." As she spoke, a holographic image of the Peace Summit appeared above the relay, showing confused delegates as Karina's voice cut through the commotion. "This is Karina of the Sci-Fi delegation. A mercenary fleet is en route to your location with plans to disrupt the summit. Evacuate immediately and prepare for an attack." Ryan fired a final shot, taking down the last mercenary. Message sent. Karina nodded. "It's done." "Good," Ryan said. "Now let's get the hell out of here." They sprinted back to the docking port as the ship groaned ominously, its systems failing. The fight wasn't over yet, but for the first time, they gained the upper hand. And together, they would see this mission through, no matter the cost. A new alliance. The crash landing was anything but graceful. The escape pod slammed into the summit's docking bay with a deafening screech, skidding across the polished floor before grinding to a halt against a reinforced wall. Smoke billowed from its hull, and sparks danced around the damaged hatch. Inside, Ryan groaned, clutching his side as he unstrapped himself from the seat. "Next time, you're piloting," he muttered, glancing at Karina. Karina smirked despite the chaos. "If there's a next time." The hatch hissed open, and Ryan stumbled out, weapon raised. The docking bay was eerily silent, the usual hustle of diplomats and crew replaced by the distant sound of alarms. Karina followed, her golden eyes scanning the area. "They're already here," she said grimly. Ryan nodded. "Then we're out of time. Let's move." They sprinted through the winding corridors of the summit station, their boots echoing against the metal floor. The once bustling hub of diplomacy was now a battleground. Fires burned in shattered hallways, and the lifeless bodies of guards lay scattered where they had fallen. As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with a group of panicked delegates. One of them, a human ambassador, grabbed Ryan's arm. "Captain Carter?" the man asked, his face pale. Ryan nodded. "We sent the warning. Where's the council chamber?" The ambassador pointed shakily down the corridor. "The mercenaries are already inside. They've sealed the doors. They're going to kill everyone." Ryan gritted his teeth. "Not if we stop them." Karina stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Get everyone to the evacuation shuttles. We'll handle this." The ambassador hesitated but nodded, ushering the others away. Ryan glanced at Karina. "You really think we can handle this?" Karina smirked faintly. "Do you want me to lie?" Ryan chuckled, despite the tension. "Let's go." They approached the council chamber, where the massive doors were sealed tight. Ryan examined the control panel, his brow furrowing. "It's locked down. Can you override it?" Karina nodded and knelt by the panel, her wrist device glowing as she interfaced with the system. "Give me a minute." The sound of muffled gunfire and shouting from inside the chamber grew louder, making Ryan's heart race. He stood guard, his weapon ready, scanning the hallway for any signs of reinforcements. "Hurry up," he said, glancing back at Karina. "Almost there," she replied, her fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly, the door hissed and began to slide open. Ryan raised his weapon and charged inside, Karina close behind. The council chamber was chaos. Mercenaries lined the walls, their weapons trained on the delegates huddled in the center. The lead mercenary, a towering figure in black armor, turned as Ryan and Karina entered. Well, the leader sneered. The runaway and her pet human. Ryan smirked. You must be the one pulling the strings. I gotta say, I expected someone uglier. The leader's expression darkened. Kill them. The mercenaries opened fire, and Ryan dove for cover behind a fallen table. Karina fired back, her movements precise and calculated. The room erupted into chaos as energy bolts flew in every direction. Ryan glanced at Karina. Any chance you have a plan? Karina nodded toward the central console at the far end of the room. If I can reach that, I can trigger the station's defense system. It'll disable their weapons. Ryan nodded. I'll cover you. Go. Karina sprinted toward the console, her silver hair a blur as she dodged incoming fire. Ryan stepped out of cover, drawing the mercenaries' attention with a relentless barrage of shots. Karina reached the console and began typing rapidly. The station shuddered as the defense system powered up, and an energy pulse rippled through the chamber. The mercenaries' weapons sputtered and died, leaving them vulnerable. Now, Ryan shouted, charging forward. With the tables turned, the delegates joined the fight, overpowering the disarmed mercenaries. Ryan faced the leader, who drew a blade and charged at him. The clash was brutal, but Ryan's enhanced reflexes gave him the edge. He dodged the leader's strikes and delivered a powerful blow that sent him crashing to the floor. Karina approached, her weapon trained on the defeated leader. It's over, she said coldly. The leader laughed weakly. You think you've won. This is just the beginning. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Yeah, well, you won't be around to see it. Karina nodded, and the leader was taken into custody by the delegates. As the room quieted, the surviving council members looked at Ryan and Karina with a mix of awe and gratitude. You saved us, one of them said. Karina glanced at Ryan, then back at the council. We saved each other. Ryan smirked. And if you don't want this to happen again, you'd better figure out who's really behind it all. The council members nodded, their resolve clear. As the station's systems stabilized, Ryan and Karina stood together, watching as order began to return. Their alliance had been forged in chaos, but it had proven stronger than either of them had expected. So, Ryan said, breaking the silence, what's next? Karina smiled faintly. Next, we make sure no one forgets what we did here today. Ryan chuckled. Sounds like a plan. For the first time, the future felt uncertain, but not hopeless. Together, they had shown that even the most unlikely allies could make a difference.